Welcome everyone to a new video where we'll be discussing ChatGPT's Agent Builder, alright? So here's the thing. If we could build an AI agent without much code that not only chats but also acts, runs workflows, calls APIs, and completes tasks end to end, well, theoretically we'd use ChatGPT's Agent Builder, right? The Agent Builder is essentially a visual tool, okay? It's OpenAI's visual approach to designing and deploying AI agents on ChatGPT and the OpenAI API, got it? Important note, we can't connect to other APIs, so if we want to connect to an API like Claude's, for example, we won't be able to. It provides blocks to orchestrate steps, okay, like all these you see here. It lets us manage the agent's performance and such, but, well, like all automation tools, really. And basically what makes it special, right? Because in the end, compared to N8N, well, this automation they're presenting as super innovative, we've already seen it back in 2020, 2022, right? It says it has a Canva-like visual aspect, which is basically the same as N8N. I mean, N8N is this here, okay? And I don't know about you, but between this and this here, okay? Between these two, I don't know about you, but I don't see much difference, okay? AI agents and AI agent consultants let us orchestrate agents in new ways and so on. Well, here they're showing us different use cases, right? We've saved 2 weeks of work thanks to this agent. Plus, in the end, the agents, well, obviously they'll need to have their functions. We can see that we have here data sets, prompt optimization, and trace grading, right? Track what's happening, though these things aren't really right. They're not exactly groundbreaking. So Agent Builder, just released, is an automation tool for use cases like customer service actions, handling changes, internal ops like data reconciliation, reporting, and complex desktop tasks like research, summarizing, and planning, got it? It's for product teams and developers using OpenAI who want to shift from chat to agent-based automation in ChatGPT. Basically, if you're from no-code or low-code, Agent Builder is similar to agent orchestration, right? And for back-end devs, it saves months of integration work and offers a more coherent interface and SDK, but not much more, okay? Right now, it's very, very limited. I mean, this is all we have, got it? So in N8N, I have this here. I click here, scroll down, click here, scroll down. Basically, we have multiple sections, thousands of nodes, right? Look at all these nodes here, see? Yeah, each one's a different tool, whatever you need. More nodes. Here, well, you've got this, and don't think it opens a new folder. It's just this, okay? It's not much, but we'll keep an eye on it, see what happens. Alright, today we'll be looking at how OpenAI's new platform works. We'll just take a quick look at the nodes they've set up, okay? To get a brief introduction, I'll tell you now, there's not much to it, so yeah, that's it. I've prepared a short description for each item just to connect them, to comment on them, sorry. And, well, we have the first start button, right? Which you can't even add, it's there automatically, okay? There's no webhook, it's just start, alright? So that's already a bad start, you see? Because of course you can't make everything begin with start, right? Ideally, you'd have something like in N8N, I don't know, a Telegram trigger. If you send me a Telegram message, it would start the chain, right? So we have start, which basically initiates the workflow manually, and end, which essentially, let's finish with the flow execution, okay? Then we have the My Agent option, which is the core part. It says, call the model with instructions and tools, got it? So you have this interface here where to delete, you actually need to click here. I'm not sure. You have this agent that basically has a name, right? You can change the name, add instructions, okay? In this case, you're an agent, an assistant, alright? You select the model, which they'll charge for, even when you're just testing. That's important, huh? I mention this so you don't get excited about GPT-5, set as default, but costly. GPT-5 can reason more, but if you have a simpler one, indeed, a lighter model won't be as powerful. And then you can connect tools, okay? A client tool, a hosted MCP server, okay? There's a let's search for files and such, like it's pretty much like N8N, right? But it's a much simpler approach. Well, this is the MCP server, which basically adds the ability for the tool to connect with any. An MCP server helps people understand how a tool works. And instead of programming each agent for each tool to understand new code, you as a developer don't have to deal with the mess of understanding dozens of tools. It saves you from a mental overload of learning many tools. The MCP server connects directly to the tool, allowing it to understand the tool perfectly. So you'd connect your email here and enter your description and token, okay? Pretty neat, huh? The current tools are good, they're Google's. I don't see YouTube or any social media or WhatsApp or anything like that. Well, we have PayPal, right? Zapier is surprising. We've got Stripe, HubSpot, a CRM and Pipe, Dream. So it's pretty good, yeah? I guess they'll add more gradually than the format, right? And then obviously we have more settings and stuff, okay? Where we can be choosing the verbosity, right? It says adjust the response of verbs, basically to prevent ChatGPT from writing excessively, since we're charged for both input and output in the API. And I don't see any way to limit the output or anything really. I guess these are options they'll add gradually or aren't interested in adding, right? And well, show the responses in the chat and stuff, okay? So here we'd have the agent. Obviously, until we see it in a use case, well, we're just kind of imagining it. All right, next we have the node of file search, which basically, if we hover the cursor here, it says a vector or vector store for relevant information, okay? Basically, I've added some notes here explaining that it searches for PDFs, CSVs, or TXT files in the workspace or uploaded by users. And for instance, a legal assistant might use this to search uploaded contracts for specific clauses. Got it? So here we have file search, where we'll input the vector ID, which we need to create by setting up a store here, right? I believe we'll be publishing a database within this store, okay? This is a database. If you've worked with a bot press, for example, where you have a database, and that database serves to give the bot press is a tool we use to create chatbots, okay? Automated bots that respond to you, for example, the WhatsApp customers. What happens? A bot can answer you directly, right? Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning, you know? But of course, if you say to the chatbot, hey, are you the secretary of this store? We sell these products at these prices, we're located here, etc., etc., and you give it all your info, then the bot can start to play a bit more with that context, okay? And, well, that's basically what we're interested in, okay? So we can see here here we have the maximum results, the query, okay? To insert variables and such. And that's it. It's a way to add that context or to allow the bot to access the documents that we publish to it. All right, now we're going to look at guardrails, okay? Basically, if we put the cursor here, it tells us moderation, PEI, jailbreaks, or hallucination check. Hallucinations are when AI answers something unrelated to what you ask. For example, you ask the typical question, right? How many letters of this type does this word have? In the past, AI would get confused and give wrong answers. Maybe it counted wrong or something, but it couldn't count properly, okay? That's a hallucination, and it can happen, okay? So basically what it does, look, it says here, what I've noted is that it helps us do safe reviews, okay? To validate info before proceeding, crucial for serious businesses, for use cases, workspace pausing, and personal data identification. It also helps us review if the user input defining the domain is valid. It's just for technical issues and such, okay? So if we select the guardrail here, right? Here we have the name, we can add an input, okay? Input as text is basically what it'll receive here, got it? What we'll put here is new note. I can delete this. You're making me, alright? Then we can set different configs, like detecting personal or identifiable information, okay? In settings, we say detect sensitive info before it reaches the model. For example, credit card information, right? So there's no problem. Name, phone number, and such, okay? Moderation, right? Classify the more harmful blocks or content, okay? That too, right? See? All these filters would let us activate them to moderate those messages. Jailbreak, okay? Basically, it detects prompt injection. Well, it means they could put us in jail, right? I'm understanding. We have a model to review rules and ensure we're not causing any crazy hallucinations, okay? And continue on error. It says, when enabled, you can define an error path, okay? And if guardrails finds errors, okay? Like, hey, this might be illegal in the person's country, right? Even if it's legal in yours, it might be illegal in their country. Well, error, I'll stop. If you say continue on error, you're basically removing the filter, right? You can say continue on error, and if it's an error, run it through the agent as a corrector, okay? So it's interesting too, okay? So that's how guardrails work, which is pretty interesting. Alright, now we'll discuss the Model Context Protocol, okay? What does it do? I've explained it, but basically it calls external tools, APIs, or services to connect or receive information, actions, use cases, like connecting a database via API, triggering a workspace with SAS, an external program. Here's the definition. Invoking a Model Context Protocol, okay? Basically, an MCP allows us, for your understanding, to connect tools, each with its own APIs and code. You know, for, let's say, to start interacting with a tool, each has its own code, okay? What happens? Each tool operates differently, okay? There's no standard method in the market. I get it, but many just prefer to customize it and be done, because these are programs you create and develop gradually, right? So, what happens as a developer, you have to learn the codes for each tool. This basically makes it easier for us to have control of the tool without constantly learning each one individually, okay? If we select MCP here, it says unable to connect tools on this server. Check your settings and try again. Okay, it says there's a requirement that you need to see and an authentication, right? In the end, if you want to connect a tool, you'd connect it from the agent, I think, or maybe you have to do it this way. To be honest, I'm not really sure how it works. Let's see where it is, we'll link it. Or maybe you need to publish it. Since it says this server isn't exposed to any tool, you can select, you know what? To connect a tool, I'd have to do it from here. MCP server, see it? MCP server, select, then add the API. I won't do it now, but it likely works this way, okay? Through here, we can simply configure the tool itself and how we interact with it, alright? It's pretty basic. So that's it, it's that simple. Very well, how do the different logic nodes work within ChatGPT's Action Builder? Basically, we have 3 logic nodes, if, else, while, and user approval. Okay, they're basic, but this tool might appeal to non-programmers too, despite being for developers. So an if or else is essentially a setup where you have an input, right? Let's say you receive a number, okay, and you say, okay, if this number, right? Here's where you set the condition. You say, if this number exceeds 25, that's the if, okay? Then we'll do this like search for a file, okay? But if it doesn't exceed 25, that's the else, got it? So we move on to the while range, okay? To check what happened, whatever, alright? That's what it does. Basically, it's a logic tool to make decisions based on different scenarios, okay? This is very interesting and crucial for creating more complex workspaces, right? Then on the other hand, we have the while. Okay, which basically allows us to do repetitions. Why do we want to do repetition? Let's say we have an Excel table, we read a row, extract data, write an email and send it, okay? Clearly, if we have 1,000 rows, we'll need to use a while loop, right? Because for each row, you know, we'll have to repeat the process. So we say, hey, while there are rows, repeat, okay? Repeat the workspace that's inside the while loop, alright? Then we have user approval, which is newer and more typical of GPT. It says pause for human approval or denial. Alright, we're talking about AI automation. ChatGPT thought adding a step for user approval before the tool decides is a good idea. And frankly it is. Why not? That's basically it. I understand that when you run the workspace and reach this node, you'll need to approve or deny what's happened. If denied, the process repeats. Hey, this was denied because of XE, right? And that's all. Alright, to wrap up our explanation of the Agent Builder, let's discuss the data nodes. These are the transform and set state nodes. As the name suggests, transform lets us convert info from one format to another. It can reformat, clean, or convert data into a different structure. For instance, when writing an email, you might want HTML for better visuals. Here's an example. Transform raw CSV columns into a JSON object structure, okay? If we select this, it shows us the key, result, value, and text input, what we'll export, expressions or objects, got it? We can also set up a schema here with the name, properties, and so on, right? At this point, until you receive the input in the format you get from ChatGPT or the agent tool you're using, you won't really know how to convert it, right? And as you can see, we can keep adding here. As I said, for now, the input works for me. It shows input as text because that's what we have, okay? So it's that simple, all right? Then we have set state, which allows us to set a state and says assign a value to the workspace or variables. That's it, okay? It's basically taking a variable and setting a value for it. What's that useful for? Well, maybe to set a name, for example. Let's say we know a person's name. We'll save it in a variable to write a personalized message like hello name, okay, for example. Here we'd put the value and add the variable. We'd create the variable. As you see, it can be text, numeric, boolean, object, or list, right? It depends on what we need and our workspace. That covers the basics of ChatGPT Open Builder, okay? Well, Agent Builder, not bad. It has many settings, but we're missing lots of tools and features. We've got a way to go, but they're on the right track, okay? I like how it's designed. The little they've done is well made, so I hope you enjoyed it. Alright, today I'll compare OpenAI's ChatGPT Agent Kit with N8N. For those unfamiliar, ChatGPT recently launched a platform for AI automations. Previously, we could automate code, but now AI can modify the flow as it runs. For example, before you'd program, if this happens, make the NPC say you can't pass here in a game. Now you can signal a player tried to cross this area. Tell ChatGPT, send a message as if you're a peasant about this. Then each time the peasant blocks you, it'll generate a new message. Well, that silliness can be very, very silly, but if you're making a WhatsApp chatbot, right? An Autobot that answers customers will sound human if programmed well, obviously, and a person will appear, okay? So it can be quite interesting. And that's just a small use case, right? Now, before anything else, here's my honest comparison, okay? Before diving in, I think ChatGPT as an agent builder needs to step up its game. This is too basic. I get it's an intro for their mass audience, but you know what? In the end, this is aimed at developers, technical folks, and they want technical stuff, right? Sure, making it easier is great, but tech people want more config options, customization, and personalization, okay? Looking good aesthetically is irrelevant, okay? It's something they've put here that no, we use Canva here for aesthetics. Yeah, very good. Look, here's N8N and here's ChatGPT. For me, it's almost the same, you know? I don't know about you guys. It's not criticizable. That's the format. It works by node. The main limitation I see is that N8N lets you connect to any tool and model, even on your own computer, okay? You can have it locally. That's a huge advantage. Connecting to a local model is amazing. But yeah, if you want to connect to a model, here are all these options, okay? And if you connect to OpenRouter, you can access many more models, okay? So what happens? With ChatGPT, you just connect and that's it. Got it? So it really depends on what you're interested in. Okay, besides that, the Agent Builder helps us create AI agents focused on reasoning within OpenAI's ecosystem. On the other hand, N8N is a general-purpose, low-code automation tool with thousands of integration options. It's self-hosted, has tons of templates, a big community, and more. When should you use each one? Well, if you want to work mainly in ChatGPT or need a conversational agent that decides steps and uses tools. If you want to test and version agents and use the SDK and ChatGPT apps, go for this. But N8N is better if you want to automate programs, SAS databases, or use a data editor. It has a more mature node editor, webhooks, cron jobs, queues, and self-hosting, okay? Having wide connector priority deployment control, right? Being able to self-host and publish it yourself. The key difference is that ChatGPT is basically very new, okay? I'm not saying it has no future, far from it. It just came out probably to gauge public reception, but I think that reception might be somewhat negative. There's no template interface here. You can't even access other people's projects. You're here with just 4 nodes, 4 things, and that's it. Sure, interesting things could be done, right? Definitely. But it lacks a lot of development and many things are missing for this to become something truly interesting. Maybe they need to step up their game a bit. That's what I think, okay? They presented this as an innovative project, but there's little innovation. So that's my opinion, alright? If they step up their game in the future, we'll give a more informed opinion. But for now, if you want automations, go straight to N8N, okay? You could also try Make, which isn't self-hosted, but it's a bit more visual. If you want something easier, I'd say, no, this one's better because it's simpler. Yeah, but it's not better than Zapier. Zapier makes everything super easy, even creating automations just by typing, okay? You say, I want an automation for this, and it makes it for you more or less, and that's it, you know? So that's my opinion, and there you have it.